You know those gigantic cargo ships that bring us pretty much everything? Well, imagine them being powered by the same kind of energy that powers nuclear submarines. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? But honestly, after decades of being, well, dormant, nuclear power for commercial shipping is getting a very, very serious second look.
And that really is the big question we're diving into. Could these massive vessels actually go nuclear? It might seem a bit out there, but the pressures on the maritime industry today are so real, so intense, that they're being forced to look at every single option on the table.
So here's the deal. The shipping industry is a major source of pollution. No two ways about it. And with the whole world pushing for cleaner energy, the industry's in a really tough spot. The go-to alternatives, those low-emission fuels, there just isn't enough of them to go around, not at the scale these guys need. And that's exactly why the nuclear option, which was once a total long shot, is suddenly back in the conversation.
Now, this isn't some brand new, out of the blue idea. It's actually been around for a while. But it's getting a fresh look, a second voyage, if you will, all thanks to some incredible new technology and, frankly, a whole new level of urgency. If you look back to the 1960s, you had ships like the NS Savannah. It was this amazing symbol of the nuclear age, but from a business perspective, it was a total financial flop. And that's what led to this 40-year-long pause in development. But now, with the push to decarbonize, the conversation is back, and believe me, it is more serious than ever.
So what's stopping us from just putting reactors on ships and setting sail? Well, it really boils down to three huge, giant hurdles. You've got the technology, the rules, and of course, the money. Okay, so let's break these down one by one. First, you've got to figure out the tech, building a reactor that can actually handle life at sea. Second, you need a global rulebook so everyone knows how to operate these things safely. And third, and this is a big one, it has to actually make financial sense.
All right, let's talk technology. A nuclear reactor on land has it pretty easy, all things considered. But putting a reactor on a ship, that's a completely different beast. It has to deal with constant motion, crazy weather, and corrosive saltwater. It's an enormous engineering challenge, but it's one that people are actively trying to solve right now. And this is where the new tech is just so exciting. Those old reactors from the 60s, they were like high-maintenance sports cars. They needed a crew watching them every second. But this new generation of reactors, what they call small modular reactors, or SMRs, they're designed with passive safety. That basically means if something goes wrong, they're designed to shut themselves down safely, without a human having to flip a switch. It's an absolute game changer. So if you were making a wish list for a modern marine reactor, what would be on it? Well, for starters, it has to be compact, so it doesn't take up all the precious cargo space. It needs to run for years without needing a refueling pit stop. It's got to be tough as nails to handle the open ocean, and it needs to be smart enough that it can be monitored remotely from anywhere on the planet. Okay, so even if you build the absolute perfect reactor, you can't just, set sail. Right now, there is no single globally accepted rulebook for how to build, operate, and eventually decommission a nuclear-powered commercial ship. And this is where things get really, really complicated. You've got maritime organizations, nuclear regulators, national governments, international agencies, plus the classification societies who set safety standards. Getting all of these different groups on the same page, it's like trying to herd cats. But it is absolutely essential if this is ever going to work. Which brings us to our third and, let's be honest, maybe the toughest hurdle of all, the business case, the money. Can a nuclear-powered ship ever actually be profitable? Can it compete with the ships we have today? Think about it. The old nuclear ships were crazy expensive to run, partly because you needed a small army of highly specialized engineers on board 24/7. The goal now is to completely flip that script. With automation and modern digital tools, a lot of that monitoring work could be done from a control room on land. That would be a huge cost saving. So, the million-dollar question, can this actually make money? Well, according to a case study from DNV, a major player in maritime safety, the answer is yes, but only if the price is right. Here's the breakdown. If a reactor costs less than $18,000 per kilowatt, it's a pretty good bet in a future where everyone's going green. But if they can get that price down below $8,000, then it's a home run, competitive no matter what. So at the end of the day, the cost of that reactor is the real make-or-break factor. So with all these huge challenges, how do we possibly clear these hurdles? Well, the path forward seems to revolve around one single, powerful idea.
This quote from Eric Overham at DNV just hits the nail on the head. The future is modular. Think about it like building with Legos instead of trying to sculpt a unique statue every single time. By building these small reactors in a factory setting, you can streamline the entire process, from construction all the way to getting regulatory approval. This standardized modular approach is kind of the silver bullet here. It tackles all three hurdles at once. It makes construction cheaper, maintenance simpler, and regulatory approval way easier. And all of that helps reduce the crew you need, and ultimately, it makes the whole business case so much stronger. It really is the key that could unlock this whole industry.
So after all that, what's the final calculation? What's the bottom line here?
At the end of the day, this is about so much more than just technology. It's about trust. Can the industry prove that these ships are truly safe? Can they earn the trust of the public and, just as important, the ports that these ships will visit? The challenges are absolutely formidable, there's no doubt about it. But the prize is a chance to completely transform one of the most important industries on the planet. So the real question is this a challenge that's too big, or is it a transformative opportunity we can't afford to miss?